Michael Williams, your island chef. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to work on a couple of recipes with a couple of unique ingredients. We're going to make an orange soda stir fry and some root beer apple barbecue sauce. Now both of these ingredients are craft sodas. You've heard of craft beer, right? Craft soda, that's right. And you know what? They're actually made right here in Victoria.
So, we're here at Phillip's Brewery, one of the oldest and longest standing microbreweries here in Victoria. We're here for a special tour to learn about some of the innovation and special things that they've been doing. Something I'm particularly excited about that I'm going to use in my cooking. Let's go check it out. Russ, is it?
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, how's it going?
Good, how are you doing?
Good. They sent me back here, they said you'd give me a tour.
That's right, a tour of the facility.
The brewery, but
Yeah,
you're much
brewery.
more than that.
It is more than that. I mean, we obviously started as a small brewery 15 years ago, actually.
15, yeah.
You know, we've gotten into distillation now as well, and the reason you're here, I believe, is the soda.
That's right, yeah.
It's multifaceted, for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So 15 years ago, started out with probably one tank.
You know, a little bit more equipment's needed than that, but
Yeah?
a much smaller facility.
Right.
So not in the facility that we're going to be touring today.
Okay.
It was actually just a one-man operation.
Yeah.
So Matt Phillips himself, he was doing everything.
Right.
The brewing, sales, delivery, top to bottom,
That's
one guy.
amazing,
So
yeah.
it's
And
really
now,
incredible.
I mean, why don't you show me around here, because I see dozens of tanks by the looks of
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's come a long way. So this is the first stop on the tour here. This is one of our bright tanks.
This is large.
It is large. So
Yeah.
this one is actually 240 hectoliters, which is 24,000 liters.
24,000
That's
liters.
right. Yep.
How many bottles of root beer is that?
It's actually over 67,000 bottles of
That's
root
a
beer.
lot of root beer.
Yeah, it is, but it's still kind of in the world of soda, small batches, and
Yeah.
so
Oh,
that's
for
what we're
sure, I
doing
can
here, and
imagine.
that's what's synonymous with craft is small
Yeah.
batches, attention to detail.
What happens next?
From here, this is actually the bright tanks hold finished product, so
Yeah.
good to go. So carbonation happens in here, and then it's off to the bottling line or the kegging line.
Why don't we go check
packaging.
out the bottling line?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I'm seeing all kinds of stuff that would make for a lot of action.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, the line's not running at the moment. It's a little bit more frantic when it is.
Yeah.
But lots of equipment goes into putting liquid into a bottle.
So
finished product.
67,000 bottles of root beer.
Yep.
How long does that take to go from start to finish?
Start to finish on the bottling line, it'll happen in a day. Easy.
Okay, so a full day, like a full 8 hours?
It depends on
roughly?
how everything goes, you know,
Okay.
for sure. So the whole line does need a lot of attention
Yeah.
when it's running. You see there's a few people in here running different machines.
Okay, so there's shutdown times where
There
something's
are
going wrong,
sometimes
you need to make
shutdown times, just like
adjustments.
any machinery
Yeah,
will have
yeah.
its problems. But when it's running smooth, the filler is going 285 bottles a minute, so 5 bottles a second.
Okay.
So it's really pumping them out.
Wow.
And then everything else runs in line downstream from that. So
Cool. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around all this. You got your big, what is it, a bright tank full
Yep.
of root beer, which needs to get transferred over to here.
Exactly.
And then filled with the bottles, and then just run me through what happens from there.
Yeah, so essentially the liquid comes here through hard lines that we've plumbed in.
Yeah.
There's always a lot of cleaning that happens between batches and whatnot.
For sure.
In a factory like this, sterilization and cleaning is very important.
Yeah.
As far as the bottles go, you know, we're dealing with a lot of bottles, obviously,
Yeah.
67,000 as I said.
Yeah.
They come off, they're part of a big machine down at the end of the bottling line there.
Okay.
They get loaded off layer by layer.
Yeah.
They go through a scanning machine to make sure there's no deformities, cracks, chips in the bottles, or any foreign objects or anything like that.
No foreign objects, that's probably important.
Yeah, definitely. Just the good liquid, right?
Yeah.
And then they go through a little rinser into the filler, where I said they're filling kind of 5 bottles a second.
Wow.
So it's really pumping.
Yeah.
From the filler, they'll get labeled. From the labeler, they'll get packaged.
Okay.
And so we've
Where's
got
the bottle cap come into play, though?
bottle cap happens right at the filler.
Oh, it
so
does?
right
Okay.
in line with the filler. So as soon as
Gotcha.
it comes out of the filler,
Yeah.
it goes right through another
Bottle
little system.
cap,
Bottle
label,
cap
boxes,
on.
gone.
Exactly. Yep.
Wow. On a typical day, how many bottles, how many cases, let's say, are you going to produce in this factory, in the bottling
When we're
station?
doing the soda, comes somewhere around 3,000 boxes.
3,000
at
boxes,
the end.
and
Yep.
that's 12 or 24?
24 bottles in a box.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know where to go when I need a big box of root beer.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now, actually, I want to know what's in your root beer.
We've got a lot of ingredients in the root beer, but
Yeah.
you know what? Someone who would be way better at explaining it than me would be our soda brewer, Heather. She's actually here today.
All right. So you must be Heather the Soda Master? Is that what it
That's
is?
me,
Yeah,
yes.
nice to meet you.
Hi.
Thanks for having me. I see we've got quite a few ingredients on this table.
Yes, these are all of the root beer ingredients.
That is a lot of ingredients. And you know what? That really explains to me why my mouth explodes
With
when I
flavor?
drink a little bit of root beer. Yeah, I love this stuff.
Yeah, there's so many components to the root beer. A
That
lot
is-
of different flavors involved.
Yeah, I can see that. You know, I see quite a few familiar things that I would use in the kitchen too. Why don't we run through what we got here? Obviously, we've
Okay.
got some pepper here.
Yep, black pepper.
Yeah, so just to
Yes.
give it like a little bit of heat, a
Little
little bit of spiciness.
spiciness.
Yeah. What do we have there?
That is the licorice root.
Okay.
Yep.
Licorice root. Yeah, I can taste that for sure.
And then moving on,
Cloves.
we've got the cloves.
Yeah.
Yep. And then
there's
vanilla.
quite a bit of vanilla in there, right?
Yeah, a huge
Yeah.
amount of vanilla. That
Yeah.
gives it a lot of the flavor.
Right.
And then we've got the cinnamon sticks
Yeah.
here. We've got the anise seed,
Yeah.
which is also similar to like the licoricey flavor. And then we've got sarsaparilla root.
Okay. Yeah,
And-
sarsaparilla. Yeah.
And we've got the wintergreen here.
Wintergreen. So
Yes.
that's like a mintiness.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and
That's
that
kinda
we
cool.
don't add a lot of it,
Yeah.
but again, it's just like all these flavors come together in certain ratios to
Right.
really make that root beer flavor.
Yeah.
And the wintergreen does add to it. If we didn't put wintergreen in it, you would notice.
Okay.
Even though when you're drinking it,
can't-
you don't
you can't
know it.
really
You're not
pick it
like,
out.
oh, wintergreen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but you
Okay.
would notice if it
so
wasn't
just kinda,
there.
it's an underlying flavor.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
And then at the end here, we've got the
molasses.
molasses.
That's one of my
Yeah.
favorite ingredients.
Yeah.
Love molasses. Yeah. So we just finished a tour of the brewery with Russ, and he took us around, showed us all kinds of stuff. But I'm curious how this kind of all comes together for you, start to finish. What does a batch of root beer look like for you?
Yeah, so even though we make it in the brewery, it is quite different than making beer.
Yeah.
So I do it in different segments. For
Okay.
each batch, I've got a few different things that I do. First, I'll do the sweet concentration
Yeah.
of the root beer. So that's the molasses and the sugar.
Okay.
So I do a big batch where I mix that with the hot water, and I put that into one of our big fermenters
Yeah.
in the brewery. It doesn't actually ferment. It's
Okay.
a way to store it is in one of the fermenters.
Yeah.
But so the first batch is just that, it's the sweet.
So it's kind of like a big, flavorful batch of simple syrup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And so then the second batch is where all these flavors come in, all the ingredients that we've gone over. And the best way to compare it would be like making tea. It's
Okay.
like making a giant vat of tea
Of course,
with
yeah.
all of these ingredients and their like certain ratios. We have exact measurements for everything.
So this is the spice batch.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So this second batch is kind of like a spiced tea. It's almost like a chai.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So what we do is we steep that in hot water for a certain amount of time, certain ratios of all the ingredients,
Yeah.
and then we send that into the same fermenter that we have the sweet concentration in.
Yeah.
And the two mix together, and then we bring it down to temperature because it's really hot because it's like tea when we
Okay.
put it in there.
Yeah.
And so we let it come down until it's cold.
So you brew the spices and then they kind of cool down along with the liquid?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
okay.
no,
Okay.
that is not how it works.
Okay.
So what happens is in the vat where I put all the ingredients,
Yeah.
where it's like tea, we've got almost a strainer at the
Okay.
bottom. So
Yeah.
when we pump it into the fermenter, the spices don't go with it.
Gotcha.
But of course,
So it's like a giant tea strainer and
Yeah.
sitting in your cup, and then you get rid of the liquid,
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
and the remnants of the spices are still there. Okay.
But of course, some of the spices are going to make it through. There's no way
Yeah.
of holding it all behind.
So what do you do then?
So then
Yeah.
we have to take it from a fermenter into one of our bright tanks, just like we do with the beer.
Okay.
And how we do that is we filter it. And
Yeah.
we actually use the same machine that we do for the beer to do that.
Okay.
Where for beer, it's going to filter out hot particles and things like that.
Yeah.
For the soda, it's going to filter out any of the spices,
Spices,
that
yeah.
might be left over.
Okay.
And so then we filter it through to the bright tank, and at that point, we're going to carbonate it, and it's ready to be put into
hold
bottles.
on there. So now you've got your syrup mix mixed with your spice mix, Now all you need to do is add some carbonation.
We add the carbonation
Okay.
at that point,
Yeah.
and we do a couple tests to see if there's any adjustments we need to make.
Yeah.
Maybe the sugar concentration isn't exactly right, and we can make adjustments to fix that
Oh,
at this
okay.
point.
Yeah.
And once it's all fixed, right concentration and everything, we can add the carbonation, and then it goes into the bottles from there.
Oh, so carbonation's the very last step.
It is.
You have to get everything right, balanced, flavored, sugar, all that first, and then you carbonate it.
Yeah.
And then it sits and waits until it's ready to be bottled.
That's correct.
Okay.
Usually once it's in a bright tank, we are bottling it within a day or...
So you kind of coordinate that
Yeah.
so it's not taking up a bright tank for more time than needed.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So Heather, I feel like I got a pretty good idea of how your root beer is coming together. In fact, my mouth is watering and I need a bottle right now. Actually,
There you
know
go.
what? I'm gonna head back to my kitchen right now and do a bunch of testing. I wanna come up with some delicious recipes using your root beer.
Awesome.
And your orange soda. Do you think you
Okay.
can hook me up?
Definitely. You
Yeah.
can take all this root beer here, and I can grab you some orange from the back.
Nice.
And I can't wait to taste what you're going to create.
I'll share.
So I've got a sweet onion here. Now you don't necessarily need to use a sweet onion, but a little bit of extra sweetness. I like to throw them in there every once in a while. Now I've got a hot pan going here. We're gonna get some coconut oil into our hot pan. And then we can get our onions underway. So we've got our onions roasting. We're working on something a little bit different today. As you know, as you remember, as you just saw, I had some tools to work with to do some testing, come up with some unique recipes, and I've done just that. I've worked really hard, and I come up with 2 interesting recipes, and that's what we're underway with here. Is the first one. We're going to roast those onions, and then we're going to get a little bit of jalapeno and garlic in there as well, and then get our chicken going, and then maybe a couple other things, some spices. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to use the orange soda as kind of like a sauce and a flavoring ingredient. It's really cool. I think you're going to like it. But let's get these jalapenos chopped. So as you can see, we've removed the seeds and the veins from the jalapeno. And we're just using kind of the meat of the jalapeno. And we're going to leave those kind of sliced like so, nice big chunks. And then we're going to do the same kind of thing with some garlic here. So I'm just going to give this a bit of a stir. We'll get in our jalapenos and garlic. Keep that moving for a little bit. I'm going to have to come back and stir that once or twice more, and then we'll be ready to get our chicken in there. All right, so we're almost there. We've just got a couple more ingredients. You can see our chicken is ready to go into the pan. Just want to get a little bit more color on the onions and then saute the jalapeno and the garlic a little bit. In the meantime, we'll cut up some peppers and fennel. How do you work with fennel, you ask? Well, like so. Cut the top off. Now, for your reference, these little greens here are beautiful, and you can hold on to them. You can add them to your dish, to your salad. They've got a really nice kind of mellow licorice flavor, just like the fennel bulb. Now, take a look at this. So we've got a little bit of a core in here, and we need to get rid of that. So I've cut it in half so far. In fact, let's get rid of the bottom as well, because it's just needing a little refresh. Okay, and then we'll cut it into quarters. So now we're in quarters, and now we can see exactly where that core is. Okay, so just a little bit of an angled cut there gets rid of the core. Refresh the bottom on that one too. Quarter. And now we're ready to start slicing. And I want some sliced fennel here, so I'm just going to go like so. Okay, so notice there I did some cuts, and then I get to this stage where it starts sloping away. It gets really tricky to grab onto, so you just give it a flip and then finish your cuts. Now, let's not forget to stir. And meanwhile, we'll gather up our fennel here. That'll be ready to go into the pan shortly. Let's get our pepper going, but just before we do that, I think we're gonna get our chicken in the pan. So, as you can see, we've got some beautiful color here on our onions. We've softened up our jalapeno and garlic a little bit. I'm gonna add just a little bit more coconut oil so that we can get our chicken in there. Turn the heat up a touch, and in goes our chicken. So just wanting to get some color on our chicken now is our next step, and then from there we'll move on. Let's get some diced peppers going here, and then we'll be ready to finish everything off pretty soon. Okay, you saw I just cut those into strips like so. I've lined everything up so it's facing the same way. Couple of extra cuts and we've got beautiful diced peppers. Now, this is our last step veggies. I'm just going to give this a stir. Our first side of our chicken's nicely caramelized. I'm trying to get a little bit of color on the other side. We're going to grab some salt, some coriander, and I think we'll go with some pepper too, which we'll grind fresh. All right, so let's season up our mix here with some salt and some toasted coriander, a little bit of fresh ground pepper. Give that a stir, get everything nicely distributed. Now you can see got some nice caramelization happening stuck on the pan, which is great because we've got something that's going to take care of that. Our chicken is colored nicely all around. We'll get our last veggies in there. So we want to give those veggies just about 30 seconds or so before we add our next ingredient, okay? Get them tossed around, coated in all those wonderful flavors, and then it's time for the orange soda. So, as you can see, beautiful colors, nicely caramelized, everything's evenly distributed. Now take note, the chicken is not fully cooked yet. Okay, it's nicely browned on the outside, but it's not cooked through. So we're gonna take our orange soda here, about a half a bottle's worth. So about 5 more minutes, maybe not even quite, and that chicken will be perfectly cooked. In the meantime, let's just cut up a little bit of garnish. As you can see, I've got a little bit of toasted coconut flakes here, just to accentuate that coconut oil a little bit. And we'll do some sliced green onion. All right, so we're about 5 minutes in here, and as you can see, that orange soda's concentrated down nicely. We've stirred it a couple of times, and we've ended up with this beautiful stir fry. A little bit of liquid left in the pan, which is great. We want it nice and moist. All right, this smells fantastic, looks fantastic. I can't wait to give this a try. Now, if you've never had fennel before, I know it's not one of the most common vegetables. I quite often hear that, I've never tried fennel before. This is a great way to enjoy it. The orange soda and everything else that's happening in here, fennel's a perfect vegetable. So let's get a little bit of garnish on here. I like to be pretty liberal with the greens. You might want a little bit less. Nice good shot of toasted coconut there, and we have one beautiful stir fry. You know what? I'm actually just going to dig right in and taste this now. Love that. Really, really full of flavor. Just a nice little sweetness from the orange soda. Lots of different veggies going on. And what I really like is, those onions we started with, right? They're super soft and tender. And then we put the other veggies in afterwards. So there's a little bit of kind of a play of texture there. Some firmer, some softer. Great dish. Serve this over rice if you want. That's our orange soda stir fry. All right. we need some sauce, man. Sauce for these ribs. Cook these ribs beautifully. They're super tender, falling off the bone already. Now we just need to sauce them up, and you know what? I came up with a good one. I feel like I did. I've only tested it on myself, but I'm pretty sure it's a winner. Apple root beer barbecue sauce. It is so delicious. Let's get into it, shall we? So let's get this diced. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna get our sauce started with some apple and onion and garlic sauteing in our pan. And we want to soften them up. Well, we want to caramelize them first, and then we're going to soften them up with our other liquids. So I think a half an onion will probably do it. We'll dice it relatively small. And then with our apple, I'm going to peel it. I quite often like to leave the skin on, but there's times when a little bit of a nicer, softer, kind of smoother texture is desired. So we're going to peel our apple before we dice that. So once we get the skin off of our apple, then we will dice it up. Get rid of the core, of course, like so. And then just rough chop. You know, this is all going to get cooked and broken down in the pan anyways, so it doesn't really matter what she's looking like. Okay, so we've got a tablespoon of butter in the pan already. Let's get our apples and onions in there as well. All right, so let's get a little bit of garlic going as well. You can't have barbecue sauce without garlic. Can you? Can you? No, I don't think so. So we'll get a few cloves. Like so, and so. Okay. Got our garlic in there now. While our apples and onions are roasting away, we're going to get our root beer concentrating down, along with our tomato, and we're going to add our molasses as well. So we're just gonna, what we want to do is just concentrate that liquid down by about 50% at least, maybe a little bit more. But we'll get in our tomato and molasses as well, which kind of just, the molasses accentuates the flavor that's already in there, and the tomato gives it a nice thickness and body. All right, so we're about 5 minutes in here. You can see we've got some nice caramelization happening on our apples and onions. I'm going to give it a nice dose of cinnamon and salt here. Just toast that cinnamon up a little bit. And then without breathing, add a little bit of vinegar. About a tablespoon or so. Not breathing because cooking vinegar is very choking. And then we'll just dump that right in. Try and get those stuck on bits of goodness. Add that right in. We'll just get that fan sucking up that beautiful smell. Now, that's probably going to take about 20 minutes to half an hour to concentrate down nicely until it looks like this. So as you can see, it has concentrated down immensely. You know, we're now left with a very thick and rich paste, which, I mean, really, you could leave it like this and apply it as a very chunky barbecue sauce. We're going to just buzz this up with the hand blender and maybe adjust the consistency just slightly with some fresh root beer. So let's buzz this up. We've got our handheld blender here. And I can tell that, you know, it's a little bit too thick. So as I was saying, I might want to adjust the consistency just with, I mean, I could use water, but why not add a little bit of extra root beer flavor in there? All right, so really nice texture here. Time to apply it to the ribs. So just like any other barbecue sauce, apply. So our oven's nice and hot. We're gonna get these guys in, roasting right under the broiler. Keep a close eye on them, maybe turn them halfway through. They'll probably take about 5 or 6 minutes. Check it out. How's that look? I would say that looks really yummy. And I'm just gonna cut a piece off so that I can try and see if my barbecue sauce turned out well. That has got to be one of the most delicious barbecue sauces I've ever tasted. Well, I'm kind of tooting my own horn there, aren't I? But there you have it. Apple root beer barbecue sauce, delicious. So our next batch of barbecue sauce there still has a little bit to go. That kind of brings us to the end of this episode. Couple of delicious recipes we worked on. We started it off with the orange soda stir fry. And from there, we moved on to root beer apple barbecue sauce. You know what? Really fun for me. Great experimentation. I would say fairly successful. Hopefully you can give the recipes a try. You can find them at countrygrocer.com. Both of them are there for you, along with hundreds of others. Thanks for being with us, and see you next time.
Country Grocer.